What is going on, YouTube? So come back today with my next 2016 college football preview. And today we are talking about the Ole Miss Rebels, a team that actually finished second in the SEC West last year, actually second in the SEC overall record-wise. I'm pretty sure I think Ole Miss and Georgia were tied, or not Ole Miss and Georgia, Ole Miss and Florida. But anyway, coming off a 10-3 season in which they went 6-2 in conference, and get into the first of my three key players. And first one, I got the quarterback Chad Kelly. Had a massively good Sugar Bowl last year, derailing my alma mater, Oklahoma State. And really just was an impressive showing up and down. Ole Miss just looked genuinely better. They're coming out of a season where, until that just catastrophic loss to Florida, they were looking like a college football playoff contender, just beating every single team they played so badly, and then beating Alabama. But that loss to Memphis definitely didn't look good last year either. So when you're talking about Chad Kelly for this year, I think you're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Statistically, I think he'll be there. He's had a decent amount of hype going into the season as one of the top-ranked quarterbacks heading into the draft. I'd say top 5, top 10 maybe if you really want to drop him low in the 2017 NFL draft. And he'll have to be big for Ole Miss in 2016 if they want to meet the same type of expectations. So my second key player is Evan Engram, tight end. I believe one of the best players coming back along this offense, best receiver. They do have a decent receiving core coming back. Demore Stringfellow and Quincy Adeboye are going to have to be huge this year. There's no doubt about that. Evan Ingram's also going to have to step up, and I think he's going to have to be the primary pass target for this year. They do lose a decent amount at the wide receiver spot between Cody Core and especially Laquan Treadwell. And then they've got some massive losses along the offensive line too, but I'll get to that a little bit later. So, getting to my only key player for the defensive side of the ball for Ole Miss, and that is Marquise Haynes, the lone returning all-conference player for Ole Miss this year. He's going to have to be big. They have some very big losses along the defensive line and in the linebacking core. You're talking about losing Robert Kimdichie, Channing Ward, Mike Hilton. There was a lot last year. C.J. Johnson, another big one. He's going to have to step up as the leader of this defense, heart and soul, at least of the defensive line. So get into the first of my two X factors, and I'm going to start with the running game. Something that was pretty non-existent for Ole Miss last year, and they do lose Jalen Walton, which is, I think it's going to hurt a little bit. He was their primary running back. Jordan Wilkins is going to have to step up this year, so will Akeem Judd. If they want to have a truly balanced offense this year, especially with the heavy losses along the offensive line, the running backs are going to have to step up a lot more than they did last year. You talk about the offensive line losses, and they're even bigger than the defensive line. Aaron Morris, Ben Still, Van Cooper, and of course Laramie Tunsil. The balanced offense is something I can't mention enough this year. Again, it's going to have to help out their losses along the wide receiving core and along the offensive line. So, my second key is replacing defensive losses. In the secondary, it's not as bad as the linebacking core and defensive line. Granted, losing Trey Elston's going to hurt Mike Hilton too. But Tony Bridges, I think he'll be the star of this Ole Miss secondary. C.J. Hampton, Tony Connor are going to have to step up big time too. Then Kendarius Webster, another starter coming back opposite of Tony Bridges. Zedrick Woods will be the new starter taking over for Trey Elston. Alright, so moving to my trap game for Ole Miss. And I think it's going to be Arkansas this year. It was their trap game last year and ended up being a game that I think they would definitely want back. That was a crazy game last year. The 53-52 loss in overtime off that weird pitch play for Arkansas. But this is going to be coming at a trying time in Ole Miss's season. They could very, very easily start off their first 5 games with a losing record, even though they're supposed to be a top 15 ranked team to start the season. This Arkansas game can either get them on the right track or it can completely derail their season. It doesn't get easier after that game either. They have LSU. They have to go to LSU right after that. So my overall biggest game for Ole Miss is definitely going to be Alabama. They've beaten Alabama 2 years in a row now. Only team to beat Alabama 2 consecutive years now. They get them at home. They're not going to be the favorites by any stretch of the mind, but it will be a good game again. And if they're able to beat Alabama once again, that sends them as the SEC West favorites for the time being. If they can do it 3 years in a row, then that definitely will prove something to themselves that they can really clear anyone on their schedule. So my record prediction for Ole Miss, I think it's going to be more of the same in 2016. I think they're going to go 10-3 again. They have some heavy losses that I think are going to prevent them from reaching that next level of being, an 11 or 12 win team and even making the college football playoff. It's a very tough schedule this year. They have to travel to LSU, to Arkansas, to Texas A&M. They get Alabama, they get Georgia out of the SEC East, and then they start off the season in Orlando against Florida State, one of the best teams in the country. Any way you look at it, it's hard to see them not having 3 losses through this, at least 3 losses through this season, and that's me being optimistic. I think they will come out of the regular season with 9 wins and probably notch another bowl win as well. I think, like I said, I think a very similar season to 2016 is in store. Granted, they beat Alabama, who knows. So that pretty much does it for this video. I'll be coming back with my Iowa State preview later today, so stay tuned for that. But that's pretty much it. See ya.